Alright, we're taking a break from the skidoo project here, do a little project on the truck here, make it a little better. Got some new wheels here, got some new tires, we haven't mounted them yet. And yeah, those are American Racing, just a little more simpler, and just, I don't know, I like them, I guess. But the thing is these don't match the back here. We got a matching for the front, but yeah, we're swapping out rear ends here. We gotta get this stock rear end here, and they just aren't very tough, and seen them break a lot. And I believe they're 8 1/4, something like that. I know that's what the front is. That's what the guy at the store told me when I was ordering gears. It's 8 1/4 front, so I imagine the back's the same. Got some ladder bars on it to help it from hopping and breaking and twisting and stuff. But yeah, so we're gonna take that rear end out, and we're gonna put in this baby right here. This is a 14 bolt, fully float, 1-ton axle from 99C 3500 that I had. And this was a good axle. This one has 411 gears in it. The truck has 342s, but we're going to swap all that. And we're going to go 4088s, so that way we can get some actual power and pulling power out of the truck. With the 37s, I mean, it really reduces gear ratio. So we took off the sucky drums because we ain't doing that. So we got these ballistic fab caliper mounts, and you just take the brake shield off and all that stuff, bolt these right on. And then this is a 87 front caliper, and this is a 87 front rotor. And then this is the other matching wheel here. See, got a 8-bolt setup, 6 on the front, 8 on the back. Same rims, so it should blend in pretty good, shouldn't notice. So that'd be cool. However, the 87 front rotors are supposed to mount on from the back. You're supposed to just have this like a flat flange here, and you're supposed to put the rotor on and then put the stud through that, and they're mounted on the back. They're not the slide-on type, they're the bolt-on type. So yeah, that's garbage. I don't like that. So I got the slide-on type caliper. That's the difference, just the spacing to be back farther. And however, the problem with that is I ordered 2 sets of rotors because the first ones didn't fit, and the second ones didn't fit. I've ordered the first set for 87 because that's what the kit told me to get for these calipers to make them fit and everything. And I was scared if I went with the later 90s style, they'd run a 16-inch wheel. And I was scared that the caliper and the rotor would be too tall and the caliper and bracket wouldn't fit. So I got these smaller ones that are supposed to fit 15-inch wheels. I mean, I'm running 17, so it doesn't matter. But so anywho, I got these, and they're the same. I mean, they look a little different, but this is for 88, and this is for 87, and neither of these fit. And the problem is where this is supposed to be on the back of the hub and the studs come through and not slide over, is the inside here is too small. You can see how close it is to the bolts, and it won't slide over. I'll show you. Take this over here. You can see how big this is. How big this is all the way around, and how big it is in the middle and everything. Then you look at that, this drops way down, and this is really tight right here. So what I do is I made a template. You can see where I drew it out, and I have to cut all this excess out, cut it off, and it's not a problem because I'm not cutting into where the stud mounts. I just shave this off a little bit here, taper it in, and leave this. So that's where it's mounted in, the stud, and it's all beefy, and that's fine here, and it doesn't cut into here. Got the other one mounted on fine, trimmed it down, so it does work. You can see in there where it's trimmed down, and it does fit. There's lots of beef right there. It's not in any problem, and it fits great. So that one side's all done. It's all good to go. Got the brackets all cleared off and everything. These are my new nicer 3/8 ladder bar mounts. So these will be sweet. So just weld them on there once it gets the axle in. I'm waiting on the perches and stuff. So what I'm going to do today is finish this side. Cut out around here all these markings that I marked off. Get this rotor mounted on and put back on. And get this brake side assembly. And then when that other stuff comes in, I'll be ready to roll under the truck and mock it up. Here it is, roughed in. Got the cutting all done. That's the basic shape of it. Pretty rough right now. I'm gonna grind that down, smooth it all out. You can see how it's off a little bit. And how I come up with it is this template right here. That's how I know how much to trim off. And I got that by just tracing the inside of this out. There. So that fits in there. So as long as this is the same as us, it'll drop right in the rotor. It'll be fine. So I got it marked out, cut out. Just get a fine tune it with the grinder and buffing pad to really polish it up there, and I'll get that rotor on. There we get the axle all cleaned up. Get them sides tapered in. Get it all buffed nice and clean. Looking good. That's just a little template here. Perfect. And you can see there's lots of beef left on these. They're not all thin or anything. There's lots of meat on there. Because they're kind of tapered back. It's only tapered here at the top. It's pretty well the same size. So, yeah, this rotor will fit on there now. Go. Rotor's mounted on there. Instead of mounting from the back, it's now a slide-on rotor. There we go. So we'll mount the brakes on just like that side. Get that mounted on there. There's it all put together. The bracket goes on the inside. I'm guessing if it's the slide-on from the back style, you could put it on the outside, and this is tapered in. Maybe you'd flip that around and go backwards. I'm not sure if this is what the deal with that is, but anyways, it works this way for a slide-on rotor. They're all slid on there, so this can come off super easy. I ain't gonna take the hub apart, and I would have had to change this to the 87 style hub with the flat flange on back anyway. So that's all done. This is a better setup. Get that in there. Get the new pads in there. They're all mounted up, and yeah, just get some disc brakes now. So that'll be a huge improvement. One issue with using this 99 rear end is the older trucks are quite a bit narrower than the new trucks. I didn't realize. Like I parked my old truck next to a new truck before, and it just looked tiny, even though it was a 3500 compared to a half ton. But the issue is going to be the leaf spring mounts. It's going to be like right here on the edge, right next to this banjo bolt here. So that might be a issue with the caliper moving back or something like that. Yeah. Should have went with a dually rear end, which is, I think it's like 4 inches or so wider on each side. So that would have gave me more leaf spring clearance here and stuff. So, but this is what I had laying around, and that stuff ain't cheap. So I'll make this work, and it'll work out good anyways. It's just gonna be a clearance issue here. And this is the setup. This is what was in it. The specs on that. This is your leaf spring mount. We're at 47 inches, and this is a 14 bolt, or 49 and a half. This one was 47, and the overall width from caliper mount, or whatever you want to call it, mount to mount, is 63 and a half on this one, and it's only 55 and a half on this one, so it's a lot narrower. However, it does have extended hubs for the floating axles on this one, so that's 3 inches, and that's 5 inches. So yeah, overall with this one is 69 and a half with the 3 inch there, and this one is 65 and a half with the 5 inch extended hubs on it there. So so yeah, if this was a dually axle, I mean, it would help because it'd be wider, but I mean, it might be too wide. But I do run wheel spacers on this one, so anyways, it is what it is. The shock mounts were 31 on this old one, the 39 on the old one, so that's going to be way spaced out here. And it's going to be interesting to mount it up, but short axles is good for strength, I guess. So yeah, I'm going to run a 1.5-inch wheel spacers on this one. So 69 and a half, and that's the extra 3 inches, so it'll be 68 and a half. So it's only going to be 1 inch narrower than this stock one. So I mean, it's 1/2 inch on each side. So I mean, no big deal. So that'll be a thing. And I really have to, like, I hate wheel spacers, but I have to run wheel spacers anyways, just because how goofy this hub is, or whatever. Like it's a step up there, but then this is so small. I think this is like 114 mil or something, and these wheels are 130 mil. I mean, they're freaking ginormous in the middle. So that's not good. There's gonna be a big gap in there, and it's gonna be riding on the studs. And whether it's the factory steel studs or aluminum studs on a wheel spacer, which is real bad, either way, it's going to be riding on studs, and we don't want that. We want it to ride on the hub here. So I also got wheel spacers that are ginormous in the middle, 130 mil in the middle. So mount this up and then mount that up, and the hub center is the same on this one and this one, and then I'm just going to get a sleeve made that slides in there. So we'll check that out. There, you can see the difference. No wheel spacer, how much of this hub's sticking out. You see, even with no wheel spacer, this wheel is going to float. It's just riding on the studs. That's not good. So I'm still going to have to come up with a spacer. Like, maybe you could like buy one of them plastic ones, but I don't want plastic. So I'm either going to get one made out of aluminum or steel. And this one, you can see that it's all the same, all the way back in there. It's all 130 mil in there. So just get a 130 mil to 114 mil adapter, slide that in there, weld it to the tube, and then this will be sitting, resting on all the way around on either a steel or aluminum sleeve, and then it won't be held by the studs. Either these aluminum ones, I mean, which are a 12-9 grade, I mean, they're good, or the factory steel ones, still not hub centered. So we're gonna get this all hub centered up, and it'll stick out. So that's two benefits. Let's see here, sticks out way farther than that one, and that'll fix quite a few problems. So with a sleeve, that'll be all good to go. Yeah, so the dually axle would have been a much better choice. But yeah, because the stock width is 69.5, and I ran 2-inch wheel spacers, so that makes it 73.5. This one's only 65.5, and even with the 1.5-inch wheel spacers I got on it now, it only makes it 68.5, so still a 1/2 inch narrower than this stock one. And I run wheel spacers on this stock one to kick through. And the front's fine because it's got the lift and it makes it wider in the front, so the back ones were kind of tucked in. So yeah, even with the front is 73.5, and I'm going to be running 68.5. So that kind of sucks. However, if I would have had the dually version of this 14 bolt, it would have been 4 inches wider on each side, so that's 8 inches, so 65 and 8 would have been exactly 73.5. This axle with the dually version, because the wheels have to go in backwards, so it has to be stuck out farther. You'd think the dually would be narrower, but anyways, it goes out wider so the wheels can run backwards on the inside, so it needs to stick out away from the leaf springs. So 73.5 for the dually version of this is the same as this stock one with no wheel spacers, so that would have been way better, but we'll make this one work. But just a shout out to anybody wanting to do this swap. If you're mentally ill like me and for some reason you want to put a late 90s rear end in a 2018 truck for some stupid reason, yeah, definitely go with the dually version of this and not the single wheel version. Yeah, because the widths are this one is quite a bit wider than this, but we'll make it work, and we'll see how that turns out. And it'll be strong for sure. I mean, it'll be stronger than the dually one, I guess, because the axles will be shorter. And when we get it's got the 411 stock gears in here, which was already better than the 342s. But when we put the 488s in there, the 37s shouldn't be an issue, and she should haul like a boss. So yeah. So I mean, doing some math here, probably should have did this first, but I mean, these are pretty wild expensive. And the dually one would probably be even more. And I had this one, so I'm getting rid of junk. So you got to factor that into being awesome and recycling. So we got disc brakes on her anyway, and we'll roll on from there. And this is just a public service announcement, I guess you'll call it. Back when I was a young fella, I bought wheel spacers to make the wheels stick out and look cool, all that stuff. And I mean, they're alright. I mean, they're not ideal, but they do the job, I guess. And I was never concerned about hub centric or any of that crap. And you know, when you just put them on, they look wider, they look cooler, it works. But I've had some snap off, and if you're hauling or going fast or doing whatever, you don't want that. So back in the day, this great big gap in there wouldn't have bothered me. I would have been like, hell yeah, that sticks out. Farther, that looks cool. Yeah, let's roll with that. But for the love of God, please don't do this. I'm going to get a spacer to put in there to hold this. Do not let your wheel ride on the studs. Do not do a stud pilot setup. Make it a hub pilot. No matter what you have to do, get the hub-centric spacers or build a shim like me or do whatever you got to do, but don't let it ride on the studs. Whether it's the factory steel studs, some setups with the hubs and aftermarket wheels and all that stuff, even if you don't use wheel spacers, we'll just let it ride on the stubs. Don't do that. You can get these little plastic rings. I mean, they're only plastic, so if it's on a car, it's fine or whatever. They let you let it center up the wheel and kind of ride on that. I mean, there's steel ones which are better. These ones are just plastic. But use that. Do not let it ride on the studs. My warning to you, no matter what you got to do, figure it out. Like, get the hub-centric wheel spacers, pay extra, or just buy them rings for your regular wheels or whatever you do. And yeah, stay safe. Don't do that, especially on a truck hauling a load. Not good. Had too many bad times myself, so center those wheels. Well, the package I've been waiting for finally came in with all the stuff to put the new axle in, the new old axle. Got the spring perches for a 14 bolt to 3.5 inch. Got this is a U-joint adapter to go from the smaller 13. It's like a metric 1340 or something on the 18 Silverado. So they call it like a mechanic 3 or something like that. And then this switches it over to a 1350, which is on the 14 bolt. And then we got a box of U-bolts and some shock tabs and retainers and bolts and everything to swap it over. So with that, we'll bring her in the shop here, and this will be the last day. She's a 6-lug on the back, and this baby's coming out. So let's bring her in and see if we can get that fitted up. Alrighty, I got her up in the air. We just got the back picked up, save weight on the hoist there, pick up the box nice and light. Okay, so the plan is to leave it up here and then unhook our ladder bars and cut the U-bolts, unhook the shocks, undo the brake lines and all that jazz. And yeah, that'll be pretty much it. And then drop the rear end out and slide the other one in. Hopefully there shouldn't be much to it, but unhook some stuff and drop her out. Well, I went and got the rear end out, and I took a perfectly fine and running driving truck and made it not that gone. Rear end is out of there. So yeah, usually it's out with the old and in with the new, but yeah, we got out with the new, well, 2018 anyway, and then in with the 99. So we're adding like 20-year older rear end here, but you can see, I guess this is some sort of 12 bolt. It's probably like a 8.5 inch ring gear or something like that. I mean, it should be pretty beefy really, but I mean, I know they break axles all the time and all that stuff, and I just don't need that kind of trouble, especially if I'm putting gears in and all that stuff. I don't want to waste my money upgrading that. Front diff really doesn't matter. Oh, here's this. We gotta get back to this sometime, but yeah, the front diff really don't matter. I mean, hauling 2-wheel drive most of the time. The 4-wheel drive will just be for, like, you know, getting out of some mud or snow or something, but this will be doing most of the hauling and work. Bigger tubes, stronger, bigger bearings. So yeah, so anyway, we got her on the dollies here with some little wheels on her, and we'll roll that under there and see how it mounts up. Actually, the widths don't look crazy far off. I mean, I know the calipers and stuff are farther in, but with that extended hub, it sticks out farther. So I think it'll be pretty close, actually. We'll see what she looks like. Well, there it is, all in place. Got the 14 bolt installed. It's just tacked up for now, but get the shocks on. Ladder bars mounted. And these calipers were really close, but since the rear end's rotated back, it does clear, even with the brake line on. It's close, but it does clear. Drive shaft. So yeah, fits in there pretty good actually. The width on it isn't too bad. Thought it was gonna be Initially they're going to be tucked in a little too much and look a little goofy, but with an 1.5 inch wheel spacer, I mean, these are just the small tires too. But yeah, stick out ain't that bad. Looks pretty good. And it sticks out a lot in the front, but let's get the bigger tires too. But yeah, she's got some poke there. It isn't tucked in too far. Looks pretty good. So there it is in there. So now we got to take it out and weld all the brackets up, and then slide it back in. And then after that, it's just building some brake lines. We gotta connect these guys here, these soft ones, and then we got these other soft ones up here. So I just gotta put a piece of solid from here up to here, bring the rubber ones down, and yeah, a couple pieces of brake line, do some welding, and we all set. All right, everything's all unhooked, ready to pull out. Just anybody who's doing a rear end swap or anything like this, put the small tires on so I wouldn't have to lift it up so high. And these rollers right here, game changer. Because before I've had welded rear ends and everything like that, and it's hard to, because you roll it back and it's hard to line it up and shuffle it left and right and all this other stuff. These ones, you just throw on casters, 4 casters, so you just slide it left and right and forwards and backwards, and you can get it lined up perfect. So now I just gotta lift it up and slide it out the side instead of trying to roll it out the back. And yeah, these are pretty cheap. Just got them on Amazon. I think it was like a little over $100 or something like that. Awesome. So let's roll her up. Alrighty, we finally got the parts to finish this build up. It looks like it's put together, but it's not. We got some hardware down here to install in there. Get some shorter bolts for the shock. These ones are too long, so we got some shorter ones here. And tighten everything up. And then we got some brake lines, some hard lines. Got these, so that'll finish the brakes up. Then we finally got these adapter rings. These are the specs on them here. Get a 114 center, that's where the axle sits, and then the 130 on the outside, because that's the size of the rim and the wheel spacer. So this slides over the axle. It's 2 inches long, and then the wheel slides over that. I'll weld this to the axle, and then this just slides over. These bolts are in the way here. There's just like a little shoulder on these bolts in the way. So but yeah, see that big gap in there all the way around where everything is just riding on these studs here, and that's what you don't want. So that's what this ring's for. So let's just slide in there like so, slide in there, and then get welded to the axle tube here, the end piece, and then the rim and the wheel spacer will be sitting on this, which is sitting on the axle. So all the weight will be on the axle, not on these. So finally got these. These were pricey. It had to be machined since they're so big out of a piece of 6 1/4 solid stock. And these ended up being like $380 for the pair, which is bananas. I mean, it's a lot of money, but the wheels are going to stay on. These are metal. It's going to be solid, and it's worth the money for the strength I'm going to get. So costing more money, but it's okay. We'll get her put together and see how it looks like. All right, we're going to see right here why these rings are worth as much as they are and worth getting machined. This is too small right here. This is 114 mil, and that wheel is 130 mil. So it's just, even if I didn't run this spacer, it'd still just be riding on these studs and floating here and brake. So I've got this ring here, and it's 130 mil on the outside. So there, that fits perfectly, nice and tight. So this wheel will be riding on this now. And this is also 130 mil. I was careful to make sure these are the same size. I had some paint on the inside, I had to clean that out. But this slides over here perfectly. I'm going to weld it to this axle. This is the axle here. Because this also has to be removable to get this rotor off, because the rotor is, well, maybe I don't have to do it that way. Maybe I can weld it to the axle. She's going to be close. Anyhow, we'll check that out. Anyways, we're going to weld this to either back here, or whatever. And that way, when this slides on, there. This slid on there. And now, this is riding on here instead of floating. Centered all the way around. Now, this just holds onto here, and the wheel has this lip to sit on, and it's not just floating here, it's sitting on there. So that'll be perfect. That's what we want. That'll be worth it. Let's get her on there. There we go. Get her welded on there. Don't need to be like super solid. Just needs to be welded on there enough so that it doesn't slide off. I mean, there's going to be a load on it, so when this comes off to pull the axle out, this will come off too. So to change the rotor, might have to pull this axle out, not sure, but either way, that's better than cutting this off and pulling this off. And anyways, just a better deal to weld it to this. So yeah, she's welded on there, and time to slide that stuff on. It should be good to go. Well, here's the before and after. Here's the wheel, floating, not sitting on the hub, not good, riding on studs and wheel spacer, big air gap, boo. Now, let's look at the side that's done. Oh yeah, here we go. Get the spacer welded on there, tacked around. Now, the wheel is sitting on that spacer. No air gap. Riding on the center as it should, not on the studs. I also got rid of them spike lug nuts to tuck the whole look in. I think that looks better. That's perfect. Took a while to get all the pieces together, but she's on there and looking spiffy. Yeah, and when it comes to the front, I just thought of this plan after seeing how much better the other side looks than this side with the spike lug nuts. I mean, maybe people like that, I don't know. But, I mean, I did. But what I'm going to do is take the spikes off the front too, take this cap and cut it way down, and then just have this little bit sticking out, because I mean, it's got that threaded CV shaft, and you don't want that all getting bunged up. So I do want this cover on here. On the back, it doesn't need it because it's got the floating axle back there. But here, I'm going to take this cover, cut it back, then just have a little stub sticking out with the American Racing thing on it. That'll be in there. That'll be nice and cool. And then have the shorter lug nuts on there, not the big spikes. So that'll look dished in, and it'll match the back. That should look pretty sweet. And get the brake lines done, get the bolts in. That looks sick. Get the bolts all in the mounts and everything. Get my brake lines run. Brake line over here. And brake line over here. All done. So now all I gotta do is finish up this side over here and get that drive shaft in there. Let's do her. There it is. New tires and wheels on, rear end installed. Get the spikes off, get that cap cut down, pushed in. So it's all tucked in there. Looking pretty good. Back up. Can't hardly really see the difference. Get the 8 lug on her. There it is, brake line's all bladed, all hooked up, and she's out of the garage. Looking pretty sweet. It's kind of a bulldog stance to it, pulling truck style, sticking out quite a bit more in the front than the back. But all in all, not too bad. Looks pretty sweet. There we go. There's the 14 bolt all swapped into the Stackerado. Now just got to get the 48s put in the front and the rear, take that to the shop and get that done, and should be hauling good. Then we'll see what that works like. Should have a lot more power. So like, subscribe, and comment on what you think, and we'll go from there. Right on.